for the reason that we are. We understand that the reality of this situation cannot be changed as much as we wish it could. Lindy and I wanted to be the ones to share with you all just how caring, fun-loving, courageous, and selfless our mother was. She was loved and appreciated by all who knew her, and we absolutely know that she positively influenced and touched the lives of everyone she met based on how she chose to live her life. Our Momma was always able to find the good in any situation, regardless of how troubling it was. She was always ready to put a positive spin on things to help keep things in perspective. Momma was considerate, genuine, and sincere in everything she did, constantly putting the feelings of those around her before her own. You could always count on her to be there to cheer you up just in a good time. She chose to treasure each day and to take advantage of every opportunity any day could bring. She succeeded in doing this for 20,379 days, and we're thankful to have had the best teacher in the world. We will carry her amazing attitude about life for the rest of the days we live.
We can't think of a more caring person to have ever been in our lives than our Momma. We saw examples of her caring nature every single day. We could come to her for anything, and she would always be there to comfort us and console us. She was the kind of person that would literally take the shirt off her back for someone else. Anything for my Lugo.
Anything for my little girl.
You can hear her saying it now. We could go on with examples of her caring nature for days. The final months of Momma's life were incredibly difficult for her in every aspect. Her life, as she knew, was totally changed, yet she still maintained every caring moment of her body, every inclination towards selflessness. She would do anything she could to care for us, even when she was at her weakest, and it's a situation that was harder than any of us has ever faced, and hopefully ever will need to. As I laid with her in bed just a few short days ago, her motherly instincts quickly helped her see something wasn't right with me. "What's the matter, Belle?" she asked. "Oh, nothing, Momma, I'm fine." She would not settle for that answer, as she never wanted any of us to be anything other than totally happy. She asked again, so I reluctantly responded that I had a headache. I didn't want her to worry about me at all, especially for something so little compared to the battle she'd been facing for so long. She gathered what little strength she had and reached over to care for me. "I'll pinch just above your nose, that always helps me. I'll just need to find the right spot." I almost broke down into tears right then and there as my mom struggled to comfort me. That is just one perfect example of our Momma, not worried at all about the pain and suffering she faced, rather completely concerned for the well-being of those she loved the most.
And man, did our Momma have some fun. She was there to care for us always, but she could be right there with you, turning an already fun time into an absolute blast. She was so lighthearted and full of life. The doors in our home were always open because she enjoyed being surrounded by those she cared about most, and she loved to provide hours of entertainment and countless delicious dinners and desserts. She was such a great host, and lots of people looked forward to spending time in the Reinhardt household with our lovely Momma. We also remember the many New Year's Eve celebrations we spent in Tennessee with our dear friends. As young children, we were not allowed in the adult room, so we made sure to be sneaky as we poked our heads into the room to see what was going on. And every year, we were rewarded with another example of how much our Momma loved to have fun and share her upbeat spirit with those around her. She could turn any dull situation into a lively party with her contagious positive energy. We could immediately pick out our mom out of the crowd in the adult room. She was the life of the party, dancing her butt off, arms flailed, singing Tina Turner and Love Shack at the top of her lungs. She exuded all the confidence in the world as she helped those around there have a better time. They couldn't help but follow her example. We still hear news stories where she was the leader of fun at any gathering, and we are not surprised one bit. That was our Momma. She loved to have a good time. No Debbie Downers allowed here, as she would say. For all the days she lived, even before we knew her, she was a courageous and tough person. She chose not to allow any challenge she was faced with to bring her down. She maintained her fun-loving and caring nature as well as her positive energy, and faced any struggle that came about with admirable courage and confidence. Obviously, this quality of hers was clearly illustrated in all the days following her extremely serious diagnosis. In spite of the words cancer, stage 4, incurable,
and so many I don't care to mention. Our Momma committed to spending the rest of her days fighting the most courageous and focused battle. She wasn't going to let this news get the best of her. She was ready and willing to do whatever it took to win. She made many lifestyle changes in hopes of further preparing herself for this fight. She took care of herself and did literally all that she could to stay healthy, physically, mentally, and emotionally. An organic diet, qigong and meditation, regular committed exercise, strong spirituality, faithfulness, the list goes on. Through multiple surgeries, countless rounds of chemotherapy, thousands of miles traveling to do for treatments, and many more than any of us can ever imagine or comprehend, our Momma never once complained, never once said why me, and never once gave up. She chose to ignore all of the irrefutable statistics and believed to her core that she could and would win. This perspective and undying will to be strong has certainly influenced those around her, especially our family. We will forever be changed for the better as we are now able to see the positive in every single situation, no matter how horrible it may seem. Just as Momma did, we will treasure each day and never once give up in any battle we face.
Another one of the many awesome qualities our Momma possessed that we appreciate most would be her selflessness. I don't think anyone could ever come up with an instance where she put herself before those in that situation. She lived her life to make the ones she loved and cared about as content and satisfied as they could possibly be. It was never about her. She would take on as many things as she could juggle, and then some, in order to be in our lives as much as she could and to provide all she could for us. She was always so involved in each activity we three kids participated in, and she did so with a beautiful smile on her face. Anyone that knew her, whether they be dear friends or those she had just met, immediately sensed her compassion and selfless nature. Even people from the past who didn't have the pleasure of really getting to know her have said that they were still able to see the true essence of her personality. They always seem to include the word selfless in their description of our Momma. She exuded this quality all the days of her life, especially the days that involved her cancer fight. Even at a time when it should have been all about her, she continued to care for and do whatever she could for anyone around her. Never said woe is me as she dealt with all the struggles and issues. She continued to go about life as she always had, making others happy. This quality has had a positive impact on all of our lives, especially our family. We will forever strive daily to be as caring and selfless as she was. Certainly after hearing these words, it would seem impossible that we would be incredibly upset and deeply saddened that we lost our dear mother. We are upset, we are saddened. But at the same time, we know that all of us have been so blessed and lucky to have had the most amazing woman for as long as we did. It would be so easy to dwell on what has happened and let it get us down. But we know that's the exact opposite of how Mom would want us to go on living. She would want us to continue to laugh, continue to smile, continue to have the best possible days. She would want us to cherish the lives that we have and all the many things we have to be thankful for. Because we understand and truly believe that that's what she would want for us, we will allow ourselves to have sad moments. We will allow ourselves to grieve. And we will always allow ourselves to cry. But we will pick ourselves up each time and continue to lead lives that we know she would be proud of. We will use her positive outlook on life, no matter what else happens in our lives, so that we can always honor our Momma and her passion for life. She touched our lives and so many of yours. And because of her caring nature, because of her fun, loving spirit, because of her selflessness, and because of her constant courageousness, she will never be forgotten. May we all try to use her example of how to live the best life possible and carry it with us forever. May we enjoy every moment of every day we're blessed with, because that's ultimately what she would want for us all. May we strive daily to give to others the joy and pure happiness that she gave to all of us. May we all try our best to enhance the lives of those around us, just as she enhanced ours so well. May we all recognize and never let ourselves forget the person she was. She will be with us forever.
Trips together. We've taken trips together through all those years. Our very first trip, I guess, was to ski at Lake Tahoe, and Gaye and I really had a bad time on the ski slopes. It was a terrible time. she discovered that she was pregnant with Leah, and so it was so wonderful to share in that news with her. We've been to Europe together, to Paris and London, where Gary said when we left Paris and entered London, gosh, I didn't know how much time I saved in France not having to read anything. Our last trip together was last May when Gaye had a bucket list, you can imagine, and one of the things on her list was to go to Hawaii. So last year the four of us went to Kauai and we snorkeled and we did it all. We did not let any grass grow under our feet in Hawaii, and we were just so glad we were able to share that with Gaye. But the main reason I got up here is that my dinner group, and we call ourselves the Cookville Vita dinner group, sort of appointed me the spokesman to talk about our parties. Because even during your mass, and I'm not Catholic, and I was hoping it would be like it was, so personal for Gaye, and there was Leah's reference to the New Year's Eve. Well, the New Year's Eve party is at our house. And so I guess that's why I got elected to talk to you about Gaye, the party girl, in case you didn't know the party girl. The first thing she ever did at a party, as far as I can remember it, we went to a German restaurant called Beggar's Castle there in Upper Cumberland of Middle Tennessee. And Gaye decided, after we had quite a few beers, that she and Rachel and some of the people who had singing voice would get up and sing Edelweiss for the whole restaurant. And they did, and that's what we did. Gaye was a party girl. The second thing I remember she did to show that she was a party girl, we had a friend who owned a rental company that rented large earth-moving equipment. And one night at a party at their house, he had a front-end loader, and I don't mean a ditch witch. I mean it was a giant, big, industrial front-end loader. And Gaye found out he had left the keys in it. So she spent the whole party driving the front-end loader. She was leaving it. I'm sure you all know that song, I Hope You Dance, which is one of my favorite songs in the whole world. And I guess that's how we would sum Gaye up. She never sat it out. I mean, she never sat out real dance, and she never sat out anything else. She was never on the porch. If you wanted to swim across Center Hill Lake at midnight, actually it was her idea. She didn't. She was like, okay, I'll go too. She said, let's swim across Center Hill Lake at midnight. You know what the heck? So she did that. She, if there was a badminton game, she was in the big middle of it. If there was a cornhole game, she was in the big middle of it. She never sat out and danced. Not ever. And if you've never been to a New Year's Eve party at our house with Gaye Reinhardt, you just haven't lived. Because it was the most fun you could have. It was just wonderful. But I'll close by saying that of all the trips that we took with Gaye and Gary and their kids, St. Simon's Island was really special to us. Well, I guess the first time we went together, Leah was probably still in diapers. And she stood down on the porch. We sat on the upstairs porch on our rocking chairs, and bossy little Leah. She was bossy. She came down there and she'd go, Yo, Dad, come down and make that sand sculpture. And we just, through the years, had so much fun with the run courts at St. Simon's Island. And we had this long beach we walked on, and when you got all the way to East Beach, the beach ended, and there was a pier sticking out there at East Beach, and we would always make it our goal, you had to go all the way to the pier, and then touch the pier, and then you could turn around, and we would never, unless we were real tired that day, but most days we made it our goal to always go all the way to East Beach, and touch the pier, and then turn around and come back to our house. 4 years ago, when Gaye was diagnosed with cancer, we went to St. Simon's Island, and she had a breakdown. And to tell you the truth, I didn't see her have many breakdowns. I know she must have, but she had a breakdown that first night, and a crying jag. And said, I just don't want to leave you. I don't want to leave you. And that's what I said to her. You're never going to leave us. You will never leave us. Gaye got to go 3 more times after that to St. Simon's Island. We said, that's going to be it. That's going to be our last trip. And 3 more times she got to go to St. Simon's Island. Most recently in September when my daughter got married. And it will come as no surprise to you that what Gaye did the day of the wedding was stood in that kitchen at the Davis College of St. Simon's Island and iced cupcakes. She just did their iced cupcakes and then went to the party and danced and danced and danced. And I have pictures if you don't believe me. She danced and danced. So that's it. You know, that's my friend Gaye, and I love her and I love all of you all. And we're gonna get through it.
And our families met through the world of swimming, and there were a couple times, I have to admit, that we would be down in Nashville, and there was one meet, and it was a pretty important meet, and the girls had to get their sleep, and we were supposed to be up early in the morning, and Gaye said, well, what about Wild Horse Saloon? And I said, okay, the girls got to be up ready to swim in the morning. And she goes, I said, well, if you want, we can show them what the heck. You know, we may never have the opportunity again. So we got down there and we were able to get in, the little girls, free, because after a certain time, you know, you have to be 21 or older and you have to pay a cover charge, so we thought, well, what the heck. So we got those kids down there and we went in, and yes, the music started, and we started dancing. And we had those kids out there dancing, and finally looked at the watches and we thought, oh my gosh, those coaches are going to be mad at us. Oh, what the heck? So we just stood out there and we danced, and we had a marvelous time. And then Gaye and I, of course, we spent a lot of time together with the kids because Gary and my husband Ken were often busy on weekends. So we would take the kids to swim camps, and we would take them to a lot of swimming meets. And while they were warming up or whatever, Gaye and I would do a lot of walking, and we just kind of got into this habit of walking all around. And we got back here, and the past couple summers, we'd leave the house at 8 o'clock, and we'd get home about 10 o'clock, and we'd walk 6 to 8 miles. And a lot of our walks actually would end in this area right here. We would walk over through Anchorage, we'd see Jim King on our way to work, and we'd come back, and we'd just keep walking, and we would walk all through the area and drop her off. And there were a lot of times when I'd say, you know, are you tired? And she'd say, no, I feel good, let's just keep going. So we did. We just kept going. And so I actually wrote a little something for Gaye, and I actually wrote it when she was still alive. And I don't know if I got to actually read it to her, but I know that she'll hear it now. So, it's titled, because of the miles that she actually spent traveling either with Gary or, you know, the kids, wherever around town, getting to treatments, going to Duke, doing all the things that she did, or taking kids to swimming meets. I titled it, A Lifetime Measured in Miles, A Friendship Measured in Minutes, in honor of Gaye. Our friendship began sitting on bleachers watching our girls as they swam miles. We sat and began to chat. With each conversation we discovered we had several things in common. Our personalities and interests led to many conversations. We could talk a mile a minute. We traveled to other states getting girls to swim camps and swimming meets, and with each trip we talked a mile a minute. We would pack our own workout clothes, walking while the girls warmed up, and yes, we talked a mile a minute. Centennial Park being our favorite spot. When you got sick, you pushed yourself to exercise, keeping your body strong and to clear your mind. We walked and talked a mile a minute. Gary and Kent were amazed at the fact that we would be gone for 2 hours, walking 6 to 8 miles, and have that much to talk about. I miss our walks and talks, the bright personality, the determination you carried with you. Your willpower to overcome this battle has amazed me with your decisions to try whatever trials were available, the miles you traveled to Duke, or to the camp in Indiana. My miles have turned into monologues, but you are always in my thoughts. I will walk for your cause and carry on my own conversations, remembering the great times we had. You are an inspiring woman, and I will always treasure our friendship that has been measured in my minutes as we walk through lives.
I'm going to do something just a little bit lighter. My name is Gaye Reinhardt. We're known as the other Reinhardts and Talent Place because we are not related. My husband is actually Louisvillian Reinhardt. And when we moved in after they had built and had their kids and stuff there. And I remember being invited the first time to Gaye's backyard. And it was just the moms and the kids. It was the playtime. And but Gaye made sure we had beer and wine, just us, the moms, the kids. They would play. And that's where it became our happy hour. Well, Gary and Gaye had an next door neighbor at the time, unfortunately has also passed away. And he was single, and he worked for a spirits company. And he kind of called his own hours, so he came home one time and found us all having a great time in the Reinhardt's backyard. And so he decided he actually was a pretty good cook. He brought over some appetizer, and then he could bring spirits too, because that's what he did for a living. And so therefore, happy hour was born. And so we continued that tradition, and then as the kids got older, the parents continued to do that. And then our dear friend Art that spoke earlier, who takes tomatoes onto the plants, he went ahead and organized with Michael Leonard, our other neighbor, and we have happy hours on a monthly basis, and Art has everybody assigned. You know, it's a little bit more structured now, but as I recall, Gaye was the one that started that. So not only did she leave the wonderful legacy of Darren and Lindy and Leah, but she leaves happy hour now free.
Chris Sailing, one of Darren's best friends. I've known the Reinhardts for quite a while. To me, they were Mr. and Miss Reinhardt. There's a quick story that I want to tell that Darren's been kind of begging me to tell that both the parents don't know about. But I think it's time that Miss Reinhardt gets to hear the true story of what really happened. I hope I don't offend anybody. Darren and I were both in high school. It was our senior year. We were both, I guess, 17. And I never really drank before. And Darren had a friend who worked at Kroger and somehow got some beer from him. And I show up at Darren's house, and he's in his room, and the beer is random beer bottles in a brown paper bag. Somehow the guy at Kroger just, I guess, sold him just random ones out of 6-packs. I don't really know how. So we just had a cluster of different types of beer. We didn't really care. We were just like, oh, this is going to be fun. I don't know what we're going to do, but we're just going to sit in his room and drink some beer. So the night goes on, and we have some beers in his room, and we start to notice that we're, getting a little bit tipsy. And we didn't really know what to do with ourselves because we never drank before. So like, well, what do people do when they drink? I don't know. And I was like, well, I'm not walking around your house because I don't want your parents to know that, we're drinking here. He's like, I think they're asleep anyways. Well, anyways, we were too scared to really do anything, so we set up a line to try to walk. So we tried to walk. We sat in his room for like an hour just walking this line. Then we decided to go and watch TV, so I think we laid on the couch for a while watching TV. Then we got scared and went back to his room. And then we decided to write ourselves a note for the next morning so that we would remember what we were doing that night. So to this day, Darren still has a note that we wrote to ourselves for the next morning, describing how much fun we were having sitting in his room at his parents' house drinking by ourselves. Well, the next morning, needless to say, we felt horrible. My sister was calling and texting me all morning. It was about 1 o'clock. And Miss Reinhardt opens the door, and she's like, boys, it's time to get up. Well, I remember when the door opened, both of us were, but when she opened the door, we both kind of like, yes. I will be down in just a second. And then she closed the door, and it's like, oh, I can't move. So we go downstairs, and Miss Reinhardt is making the most ridiculously awesome breakfast. It's like pancakes, and eggs, and bacon, and juice. And she's super happy, you know, just talkative. And me and Darren are on the verge of like dying right there. Like we felt horrible. So every time, I remember this part exactly, Darren. She's like flipping the pancakes and scrambling the eggs. And when she's turned around doing it on the stove, behind her, me and Darren are looking at each other like, I'm never drinking again. This is awful. And then she turned around, she's like, do you want some bread? We're like, yes, I would love some. Thank you. And then she turned around again, and we're like, oh. She gives us the food, and I remember trying so hard to eat this food, but neither of us could eat. Like, we're just putting the pancakes in our mouth and chewing, and we're like, this is delicious, Miss Reinhardt. And then she turned around, and we're like, trying to swallow it. Anyways. The next day, like, my sister called and was like all worried because I was like sick for like a day and a half or whatever. And to this day, Darren still hasn't, you all still don't know that we weren't really sick. We had just sat in his room the night before and drank. And Miss Reinhardt, God love her, she was always very nice to us, and she loved Darren's friends dearly. And so I thought it would be nice if she got to hear the real story of why we couldn't eat her food too well that morning.
That sounds like classic Gaye. My name is Gaye and I also met Gaye through the swim world. My daughter left the swim world long before Leah went on to accomplish so much. But I just, it's one thing I want to address is the children, is Darren and Wendy and Leah. And I think just looking at, I can't find Wendy. Thank you, Wendy. The three of you all, to me, just looking at you all and how you all fit today and the things that you have said about your mother and the way you've acted is such a reflection of who she was as a mother. Darren, I'm going to repeat my story that I told you. Darren endeared himself to me when Gary reinvented himself, the true Renaissance man, and he and Gaye started their new business and needed to go into training before they opened their franchise. There was a meet, a state meet. We all were little because that's when my daughter was doing it. And Darren was put in charge of Leah. And so I thought it was a little interesting, but I don't think that he had been read any riot act or been given any set of rules, or I think that Gaye and Gary just trusted him to be the big brother. And he came and he sat there and he watched her swim and he cheered her on and he listened to a bunch of swim moms talk about crazy stuff, and I'm sure he was bored out of his mind and thinking, oh, these ladies shut up, And he went right along with us. I mean, wherever we decided to go to lunch, I'll never forget, him asking Leah, where do you want to eat? And she goes, I don't know. And Gary goes, I don't know where that is, Leah. Leah said, and then it's my famous line, which I have stolen from you, is that that weekend he was so laid back and just so, he wasn't bossing her around. He was just there for her, and which just shows such a reflection of the family and what the values that were instilled in them to be a family, to take care of each other. And the line I stole from you is, whatever Leah asked you, I don't remember, but you said, it's your world, Leah, I'm just living. That kind of, I said, you kind of got officially inducted into becoming a surrogate swim parent. Because that's what it is. It's your all's world. We were just living in it, you know. Some of us a little too much. Looking back this way. But Lindy, you know, you and Lee are both as beautifully physically as your mother is. And I don't think that I will ever be able to not look at you all and not see Gaye's physical beauty, but also the warmth and the smile. And I just think it says so much about you and so much about Gaye as parents that the three of you all are who you are today. And you were so fortunate. And I know that there wasn't a day, you know, I'm sure Darren, your annex probably just drove your mother crazy. But I never heard her say a word ever, you know, of disappointment in you. You know, she loved you and and you endeared yourself to me through her, because I thought, you know, if I had a son, and I was told you this earlier, I would want to have the same relationship that Gaye has with Darren. And Lindy, you know, I know you all had a closeness and you all shared a lot of it, the same interests, and did things together. And she cared so much about you. And Leah, she was proud of all of you, your academic accomplishments and just everything that you all have done. And I just wish nothing but the best for your family. And I love you all. And I am fortunate that I was able to be friends with you all, and that Gaye was my friend, and that I was always welcome in your home.
I'm the crying brother, so I'm going to do my best to get through this without. You guys have talked about Gaye's kind of second half of life, but I've known her for 53 years and got to know her in the first half as well. So I'm going to tell some stories about what it was like to have her as my older sister. In our family, we have 5 kids, Bill and Ruth, and then there was an 8-year gap, and then there was Gaye and me and Lori, who were each 2 years apart. And so Gaye was really a pretty amazing older sister, and she definitely reigned as the older sister in our house, because Ruth and Bill had already moved away by that time. And one of the things that we had to do, we always thought that our parents should get an electric dishwasher. And my mother would always say, I don't need a dishwasher, I have 5 of them. So we had to do dishes every night. And so because Gaye was the oldest, she got to wash, and Lori and I had to dry. Well, that meant that Gaye always finished first, and so she got to go to the living room after dinner, and she got to pick whatever the television show was. And Lori and I never got to do that. And so we finally figured out that, you know, Gaye wasn't always like super careful in the way she washed things. And so we would set something back that was dirty and not tell her about it until she was plopped in front of the TV and she'd already picked her favorite show. And then we would yell at the top of our lungs, "Not clean, not clean!" So she had to come in and wash it, and then only one of us had to stay to dry it, and the other one could sneak in there and change the channel. When I was 13, I went to work for the Grant Street Dairy Queen in Gary, Indiana, and Gaye was already working there. And so she had to train me, which was an ordeal to train her, you know, nerdy little brother in how to make, and you know, it looks really easy to make those little curly cues and everything, but it is not. And we spent hours and hours with her training me how to make the curly cues on the cones and how to make dilly bars and all that kind of crazy stuff. And that was in the early 70s, and it was during the Arab oil embargo, which half of you in this room have never heard of, and the other half of you remember waiting in lines. And we would ride home with our boss every night, and we would stop in the gas line and wait for 3 hours after work in order to fill up the gas. And then we'd come home, and she'd lay down on the floor, and she'd always ask me to rub her back. And you know, I remember when we were really young, and she slept in the same bed with Lori. We had a small bed, you know, 3-bedroom house, and there were 5 kids and mom and dad. And she'd always tell Lori, "You rub my back first, and then I'll rub your second." He would always fall asleep. But she was an awesome sister, and we are really very appreciative of her and just the years. Later on in life, when we had kids, we were, Gaye used to send hand-me-downs from Gary, and, from Darren, excuse me. And my boys hated trying on the little clothes. They love wearing them, but they hate that whole shopping and trying on and everything like that. And one day they were trying on a pair of pants, and there was a $1 bill in it. And then they thought, oh, this is really exciting. So from then on, we always salted the clothes with money so that they would until they couldn't have the money unless they actually had the clothes on when they found it. So that was great. And so we just had a really great time with Gaye through the years, and I am just so thankful and appreciative to have had her as a sister. Obviously, when you look at the kids and at Gary, just the way their family has turned out, she was a great blessing to that family, and she was to ours as well, and she will definitely be missed.
Hi, everyone. Is this on?
Yes.
Oh, my name is Brenda Riddell. Is that on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, hold it close. I'm holding on tight because you'll see my hands shake. I've known Gaye since junior high school, and we used to walk the halls of Highland High School. There was 5 girls. She was one of my best friends. We had a third friend who passed away about 7 years ago from cancer. And her and I flew out to Colorado to see that girlfriend. And now here I stand here. Anyhow, I'll tell some fun stories. I worked for the street department of Highland, Indiana. Gaye worked at the Dairy Queen. She met Gary. Where are you, Gary? Hi, there. And I remember the night that he proposed, because she pulled into the street department when we were ready to be assigned our daily job, ran into the garage that we stayed at, and she had the ring on her hand, only it fit the ring finger, it fit the pinky. It didn't have the right size, but that's okay. She was glorious and so excited, and she loved him so much. So we went to the wedding and danced at that wedding, and we talked about dancing. She really danced. And then I went away to college. And did you move to California then? Was that the time? You ended up there. Wisconsin, and then, yeah, Appleton. And then, as time went by, we would talk on the phone and didn't see each other a whole lot through those maybe 3, 4, 5 years. And suddenly, I heard that they were in Michigan. Kalamazoo, Michigan is where I lived. And she called me one day and she says, guess who's your neighbor? And I'm like, are you kidding me? And so they had this beautiful home in Michigan, wooded, and she was pregnant with Darren. And we walked. We did a lot of that stuff. She didn't drink. Gary and I drank. And then my brother came to visit, who's right there. And it was the day before the 4th of July. And we were supposed to have a barbecue. And I called her that evening or that morning, and I couldn't get an answer. And I thought, well, what's wrong? And then we got a call from Gary and said, we have a boy. And I'm like, you're kidding. And no, everyone, we were so excited. My brother and I went to Kmart or someplace and got a baseball bat and a mitt and a bunch of those cheap flags that you stick in your yard. And we wrote little phrases on the flag. We were so excited, and we filled up a couple coolers with vodka and lemonade. And it was in Orangeburg, medical center. They had a birthing center where the parent, the mother, was on one side in the bed with the child, and then the family or the father could be around the corner with a big TV set and a couch and kind of chill out. Well, my brother went one way with the vodka and the lemonade to where. And I walked in, and there she sat up in bed with this little bundle, just adorable, and trying to get him to nurse. He didn't want to. And so the nurse came in, and I held him. And I don't have children, so I have puppies. And so I didn't really know what to do with him. Anyhow, he whimpered and cried. And nurse says, well, he needs to be changed. And I said, okay. And I laid him on the bed, and she was working with Gaye, and I'm like, okay, I think I can do this. So I changed his first diaper. And I changed a lot of diapers for him after that, for the years that they lived there. I babysat him the night that Lindy was born. He sat in his little big boy bed that Gary had made for him. And he had drawers that he pulled out. It was so cute, and he whimpered and cried, and he wanted his mama, but they were in the hospital. And so I was telling Darren, I read to him and, tried to get him tired. He wasn't tired, he's like his mother. And I would go to sleep. And finally I picked him up and brought him into the big bed with me. And we played and read books, and he finally went to sleep. And I told him, I said their house was big and had a lot of woods and water behind it. And all night I laid there plotting my escape should we ever be broken into. Because I heard creaks and groans in the house, and I thought I'd have to grab this little boy and run. So they were, she was my maid of honor at my wedding. I've been married for 25 years, 24 years. And Gary was our best man. And Darren was the ring bearer. I shouldn't write those photos because Gaye wore red. Her coloring in red, she was just stunning. I look at those photos and it's breathtaking. And then they moved, and I was married, and life goes on. The years go by, and we saw each other sporadically. And I can remember stories about drinking. One time we went here, and I don't know what happened. She was cooking at the stove, and we started drinking. And Lindy came down the next morning, and my head was in my hands, and I had a newspaper, and she sat there and ate her breakfast. And I said, what would you like to do today, Lynn? I used to call her Lindy Lou and Leah Lou. And I said, what would you like to do? And I said, would you like to go see the horses? And I said, would you like to do that? She says, but Aunt Fred, you can't get alcohol there. Sorry. Do you remember that?
No, but
Yeah, he does.
I was receptive.
Huh?
I was receptive. Huh?
You were quite
Not
receptive.
for you.
And Fred, you can't get alcohol there. And I said to her, I thought, oh my God. And I said, oh honey, we don't always have to have alcohol. So that's how that goes. And as time has gone by, the kids have grown up, and I'm just stunned at how beautiful the girls are. They do look like their mother in high school. And Darren is my heart. And I love Gary. I always will. I said we're going to grow old together. And he says, Brenda, we are old. And so, anyhow, the last several years, 10 years, Gaye, there's a group of us again, ladies. I know the names. I know Jay, and I know Mark and Beth. I know the family, and I just, all the names she used to throw out. Our last trip was to Key West. And went down and had a few laughs and obviously a lot of drinks. And I didn't realize at that time, though, she was sick. She didn't know. Because shortly after that, I got a phone call that she was not feeling good. So I saw her a month ago. I had to come see her. Then I rubbed her feet. And I hugged her and I told her she was one of the best friends I've ever had. For such a long time. And she's the one person in your life where you lose touch with all the years, and you can pick up the phone, and it's like you were always there. And that's what your mother was to me. My husband says to me, your voice always changed when you talked to her. It always was different. He says, you were young again, and I will always miss her. And I love her, and I love the kids. And Gary, I don't think we're that old.
My name is John, and I've known Gaye for about 5 years. And she wasn't just the boss's wife. She wasn't just like my boss, but she was a wonderful friend. And I wanted to share a few stories, 2 or 3 funny ones, and the last one I'll be lucky to get through. The first one was Gary called me, and he told me at work one day that Gaye had been having some problems, and that they needed to have him checked out, and that Gaye was going to need to be in the hospital for a few days. So I was working with Darren one day in Clarksville, and I asked, well, where's Gaye at? He said, well, she's over at, I think, Baptist East in Louisville. And I was like, well, I'm going to go pay her a visit after work. So I ran over, grabbed some flowers, and stopped by the room. Well, I think I'm cursed with bad timing, because I'm always in places when there's bad news to be given. And I remember sitting there, and I met Ruth for the first time that day, and I met, I believe, her other sister, or one of her other sisters, and I was right there in the middle when the doctor came in and was delivering the news, and I remember he had brought in a printout of the colonoscopy, and he was talking with Gary to the side, and Gaye looks over at me, and instead of being distraught, she goes, hey, want to see my colon? Now look, I'm weird, okay? I'm as weird as it gets. And I loved that Gaye was just as nutty. And she always taught me to trivialize the big things when it came to us. Put others first, above yourself and your own pain. And I remember I would check in with her from time to time if she was at home, or if she was at the St. Matthew's store, and I'd get lucky and catch her on the phone. But I could tell in her voice some days she'd pick up the phone and be like, thank you for choosing Papa Murphy's in St. Matthew's. This is Gaye. I'd be like, hey, gorgeous. And she'd perk up a little bit. Oh, hey, John. Because she didn't want me to know that anything was wrong. And we'd talk. And I remember she came back from her second chemo treatment. And she was just down. And she was telling me about this stupid pouch that they made her wear. And it was just such a fashion faux pas. And it bugged her. And I was like, well, you've got to have someone to blame. So let's name it. And so we named her little pouch Sebastian. So I would call and ask if Sebastian's giving her a tough time today. And she'd let me know, and yeah, he's being a jerk. And she was able to kind of personalize it. And I told her whenever she gets mad, just yell at Sebastian. And she did. And she was able to make light of it with me. And I loved always having that kind of a inside joke with her. And another fun story, and it's already been mentioned, was pumpkin bread. If anybody in here doesn't know what Gaye's pumpkin bread tastes like, you're missing it. But to tell you how important her pumpkin bread is, I'll go back a few Thanksgivings. Not everybody in the world loves pumpkin bread, and so I was one of the fortunate ones who would get all the leftovers at the store, and I would take them to my family Thanksgivings. Every time when I went home from Thanksgiving, from that moment on, the family's like, where's the pumpkin bread? And I was like, well, I already ate it, or I'd given some to the family. And then just, it's so weird, this last year, when something as small as pumpkin bread not being there feels like such a void. And I loved Gaye for all that she did, especially her pumpkin bread, but for more things. But the one thing that I'm most thankful for, it was already stated, that she danced. At my wedding, she broke her hand or arm 2 or 3 weeks before, and she was in a gaudy blue brace, and she hated that thing. And she was in just a beautiful dress that day, and a big blue cast, or brace, and she was just kind of hiding it a little bit. And I remember going over to the table after I had danced with my wife, and I asked Gaye if she'd dance with me, and she did, and that was one of my favorite memories of her. And I'm just so thankful for her. And like I said, she was not a boss. She wasn't the owner's wife. She was a friend and a mom. And I'm just grateful for her.
take the credit for Gaye being born. Because when I was 8 years old, all my little friends were getting brothers and sisters. And I've told this story many times. And I kept saying to my mom and dad, I want one, I want one. And lo and behold, Gaye was born. So Gaye has always been my baby. We have lots of wonderful stories to share. Our brother Roy shared some from when they were growing up. We always used to tell Mom that we knew Gaye was her favorite. And one reason that we did was when Gaye was in high school, there would be a dance on Saturday night. Gaye would come home on Wednesday or Thursday and say, Mom, I've got a date for the dance. Could you make me a dress and a shawl to match? And my mother would go to the store, get a pattern, get fabric, sew a dress, make a matching shawl with fringe and all kinds of stuff, and have it ready for Saturday night. So we always used to say, Gaye's your favorite, but I don't think any of us minded. A story I'd like to share that happened last summer. After Gaye and Gary and Jenny and George went to Hawaii, the very next Monday, Gaye was scheduled to go to Duke for a treatment. And so having been away on this vacation, Gary needed to attend to business. So I went with Gaye on that road trip to Duke. And she got her treatment, and then we headed home on Tuesday afternoon as soon as it was over. We were driving through the mountains, and it was raining, there was fog. Gaye was driving, and I thought a little fast for the road conditions. And I kept saying, Gaye, slow down, you can't see. And so we made it through the mountains, and we were in West Virginia, and we stopped at a gas station, and we decided we should reward ourselves with chocolate because we had lived. And then I said to Gaye, you know, the Powerball was about 150 million that weekend, that week, and I said to Gaye, you know, you always hear about it being somewhere in, North Carolina or Virginia or somewhere. I said, let's get some lottery tickets. So Gaye was pumping gas and cleaning the windshield of the car, and I went into the gas station and picked up a couple packages of M&Ms, and I asked the clerk for 2 separate Powerball tickets. And then I don't know why, I guess it's the clown in me, I felt I needed to explain why we wanted 2. And I said, well, my sister's out there, and if we win, we've already agreed that we're gonna split it. And so, being in West Virginia, it was kind of like Bubba and his brother were standing there waiting in line behind me, and with the 6-pack and a couple teeth missing. And as I explained that Gaye and I were sisters and we were gonna share the winnings, one of the men said, well, you better write your name on the back of both them tickets before you give her one. And the other guy says, yep, that's how them family feuds start. If you don't have your name on it and she wins, you won't get nothing. So I hand the clerk a $20 bill. I had my 2 packs of M&Ms laying there. He gives me my lottery tickets. He gives me my change. I pick up the M&Ms and I go out to the car. And Gaye's just finishing up cleaning the windshield. And I jump in the car, and I'm sitting there and kind of arranging myself because I was going to start driving. And this little guy comes out with his little baseball cap, and he's going, ma'am, you need to come back in the store. You didn't pay for the candy. And I'm thinking, what? And without missing a beat, Gaye looks across the car at me, and she says, Ruth, are you stealing M&Ms again? And we laughed. So I went back in, and then I'm telling all these people that are waiting in line, now there's the 2 guys, and then there's a lady with a 24-pack under her arm, and the cashier had not closed out the cash register, so now they have to wait for me to pay for 2 bags of M&Ms. And I said something about, my sister just pulled a good one on me, and one of the guys says, oh, I see her, she's out there with her head back laughing. So we got in the car, we started our road trip home. We called Mom. We were both laughing so hard we could barely speak, and we were trying to tell her the story about me stealing M&Ms. And then we tried to call Gary, and we were laughing so hard we could hardly tell Gary. So it was one of the best times that I've ever had with Gaye. She was a wonderful sister. I'm glad I was here to help her and to be with her. She will live with all of us, always. Thank you all so much for being here and for loving her.
Gaye kind of outshines you no matter what. She just has a beauty that doesn't stop. So she's just an amazing person. And I'm also the one that went with her and drove the She kept digging. I was like, I'm gonna get it leave before she wrecks the thing. But I have an aunt that died that reminds me of Gaye. She lives in Louisville. She lived in Louisville too. Her husband, my uncle, lives right down the road. I didn't even know this was all going to be so close. But at her funeral, it was just like this. It was very open mic, and they wanted. Edelweiss was one of her favorite songs, my aunt's. And so they asked me to sing it, and I said only if everybody will join in. I just love it because at the very end it says, "Bless my homeland forever." And I feel like she has put such a deposit in all of us that I feel like she is part of the home. You know, she just puts a deposit, but she has a beautiful family. And I really like